Hello and welcome. This is Story Impact. I'm your host, Lisa Towles. This YouTube series is intended to showcase authors and their writing journey and the unique perspectives and lived experience that drive the creation of their books. I started this series because of my undying love for stories and because it's my calling to lift up and support other writers. I'm also a crime novelist, and you can find my books on Amazon. And to learn more, go to lisatowles.com. All right, let's get started. So today I am so excited to welcome today's guest and my good friend, Brian John Skillen, and I'll tell you a little bit about him. Brian is the award-winning Amazon best-selling author of the acclaimed Through a Field of Stars historical fantasy series. He's also a digital content creator, a gifted marketing consultant, whom I've worked with personally, with a long history as a professional dancer and an international dance instructor. So from his website, he writes, "I believe we are all called to adventure. Whether we answer that call by reading our favorite book or by traveling the world, we are born to explore." He writes, "I write historical fiction and historical fantasy in the hopes of taking my readers on the adventure of a lifetime." And what really resonated with me is his mantra, "If you have a big enough why, any how can be overcome." Love it. Brian, warmest welcome and thanks for
Oh,
being here.
thank you so much, Lisa. It's so good to see you today.
Thanks.
Mhm.
All right, so let's dive in so readers can get to know you a little bit. I'm going to launch into some questions. You ready?
Yeah, sounds good. Let's do it.
All right. Um, During all of your years as a dancer, did you have any idea that you would be where you are now as a best-selling author with your amazing series? And how do you think your early life prepared you for your author's journey?
I had no idea at all. Actually, it's funny enough. I always say God has a sense of humor, right? He made me very large, obese when I was young and I became a dancer, and he made me dyslexic and I became a writer. So I actually grew up with dyslexia in the third grade reading and spelling level. So
Wow.
I never in my life thought that I would be an author, let alone help other authors to get their books out into the world. So I think it's just a big old joke and it's a lot of fun. And I have absolutely loved going through it.
That's
So
great.
but being a dancer gave me a lot of opportunities to travel the world. And like I think being able to travel the world and explore and see so many different things and meet so many different people really has made my writing very rich. And as you know, my first book takes place on the Camino de Santiago, which happened on one of my dance tours. And we can talk more about that
Mm,
later if you have that
mm,
coming up in your questions, but
mm.
just let me
Okay,
know.
that's cool. All right. So when you were called to write the first book in your series, how did you know it was supposed to be a historical fantasy specifically? I mean, why not write a historical nonfiction book about the Camino and about the code that came to you? Anything you can share about that?
Yeah, sure. So I'll give you the story with that. So pretty much, 2017, I was on this pilgrimage that's called the Camino de Santiago. I had been on dance tour. I had my bag and my dance shoes with me, and I got to this place called the Arc of San Antone, and then to the city of Castle Jerez. I thought, oh, this looks like something out of Game of Thrones or Lord of Rings, and I just loved it. I felt like I was in a fantasy world, like a dragon was about to come out of someplace at some time. And then I checked into the albergue, which is the pilgrim's hostel, and the stamp for the city on your pilgrim's passport was the Cross of Jerusalem, which has 5 Templar crosses on it. And I said to the guy, "Oh, the Knights Templar." I said, "What do you know about the Knights Templar?" I said, "I don't know. What do you know about the Knights Templar?" And we got into this great conversation about the history of the Templars on the Camino and in that region. The next morning, when I woke up, as we were finishing, he actually said to me, "Look for the secrets the Templars left behind on the Camino." And with that, I was hooked. The next morning, I woke up. I took my dance shoes out of my bag, which were my most valuable possession as a dancer, and I left him and I said, "I'll trade these in for a story." And every day after that, this book played like a movie in my head. The people I met became characters. The things I saw wove their way in. And so you asked me about fantasy. Well, the Camino de Santiago has castles and it has knights and everything, and it just really lent itself to a fantasy sort of world.
Wow. Wow. That's really something. Thanks for taking us through all that.
Yeah,
Um, so many related questions here, but I'm trying to make these videos sort of short. So
sure.
So in terms of your reading habits, what types of books excite you the most
Hmm.
lately?
I like coming of age fantasy that I'm reading right now because that's what I'm working on at the moment. I'm doing a prequel series, and so it's going to be a little more coming of age. Although my characters in the first book in the series are 16 years old, like my lead character is, so it's kind of a coming of age book. But the ones that come before it are going to be even more coming of age. And then I have to be honest, I love reading marketing books. Like I totally geek out about marketing, and I just could read them all day long. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so those are the two that excite me, like coming of age fantasy and business books.
And business books. Well, I mean, they're related. I mean, like we don't write books in a vacuum. We write books for an audience and we write books for readers. So
Mhm.
I think that's something that really differentiates you as an author is that you not only have expertise in marketing, but you care about it. You're interested in it. You're passionate about it. You teach it to other people. So I mean that's
Absolutely.
such a wonderful extension of you as an author. All right,
Thank you.
so you're a professional marketing consultant and someone that I've worked with personally. How do you juggle the writing and the marketing parts of your
Mm.
writing life? Everybody does this differently.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So like the writing part of my life, when I'm actually writing a novel, I set a word count. So I commit to writing 2,000 words a day no matter what is my word count that I go to when I'm writing. And then I block out the time. Usually I'll wake up before my wife at like 4:30 or 5 in the morning and I'll write until breakfast. And then if I haven't finished, I'll continue afterwards. But I try to take that as my writing time. And then the rest of the day is working on marketing or working on my more so my clients' marketing. I tend to do a lot more for my clients than I do for myself presently. But yeah, so and that's for those that we've published and those like we help with just marketing their books. But it's great because everything builds on everything. And I love it. It's like compounding interest. Like the more I learn about marketing, the
Mhm.
more authors I work with, the more better I'm able to serve as I go forward and the better my books do. So it all kind of compounds on top of each
Mm,
other.
That makes sense. All right, so let's step back from marketing now and look
Mhm.
more like kind of globally at the publishing industry.
Yeah.
There have been, as you know, just huge tectonic shifts in the publishing landscape over especially like the last 5 or so years.
Mhm.
What do you see as a promising new opportunity in this landscape that novice writers should be leveraging?
Well, that's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I do see it. I have several friends who are New York Times bestselling authors, and they're like, it's not even worth it anymore to be traditionally published if you're not getting $100,000 contract up front, you know? And so this is coming from two of them, and some of them have actually left and started doing Kickstarter book launches, which is where we started with our books. We were able to raise over $10,000 in 30 days from a debut novel, months before it was available anywhere else. And then you just see Brandon Sanderson doing the same thing. He launched his Kickstarter and raised something like $43 million for 3 books within 30 days. And so I really see, I think people should educate themselves on crowdfunding their books coming into it. I also think they should educate themselves on the self-publishing process. And that's why our company, Publishing Hackers, we focus on educating and empowering authors when you go into it, as opposed to vanity presses that just publish. We walk our authors through each step so that they know each step when they're coming into it and they can do it themselves, like going forward. We just really care about education. So I would say educate yourself, learn about Kickstarter book launches, um, also learn about marketing. The best thing you can do is like read marketing books and learn how to market, join forums, like a whole bunch of other things.
Brian, if someone wanted to contact you about marketing, I mean, I'll go through your website at the end, but I mean, could they contact you at publishinghackers.com? Is that the best
Yeah,
way to
sure.
reach you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can publishinghackers.com or you can connect through our website, brianjohnskillen.com.
Okay.
I think another important thing for people to realize too is selling direct as opposed to selling on, well, you still want to sell on Amazon and everywhere else, but what happens is if you sell on Amazon, you're gaining Amazon a customer instead of you gaining a customer. If you're selling direct through your own website, guess what? After your person has gone through, you have their email, you have their information, you can reach out to them again and say, hey, I have a release coming up, which is exactly what Amazon does and other places. They say, we've got these releases coming up. but then you are actually building an asset of your email list and everything, which every author should really focus on, is building that email list, and selling direct is a good way to do that.
Mm-hmm. All right, thanks for sharing that. My cat Marmalade is meowing in the background, reminding me that it's getting close to lunchtime. So sorry about that noise.
Oh, I can't hear it at all.
So this series is all about impact, meaning, and purpose.
Mhm.
So I'm going to like pull away from like marketing and the mechanics of writing to think more generally about like your why, you know.
Absolutely.
So what would you say is your overall purpose as a writer?
So my overall purpose for the first series was to inspire 1 million people to go walk the Camino de Santiago, which is where my book goes, because it had just such a huge impact. And it's working. Just yesterday, I saw somebody who had come back. She just finished the Camino de Santiago after reading my book. So she read my book and then walked 500 miles across Spain. And it was life-changing for her. And so like right there, I'm fulfilling my purpose. With that, we're also going bigger. I don't know if you know, but we're working on a TV show right now. And as we're speaking, the president of History Channel is actually reviewing our show, which is like just beyond a dream. But with that, we'll be able to inspire more people to go and walk the Camino. So my why for writing and what got me through overcoming all those challenges was to inspire people to go have a life-changing adventure on the Camino. So that was my big why.
Wow. That's a big one.
Yeah.
All right. So what meaning do your stories bring to you? And the next question after that, you can do this whatever way you want. What impact do you think your books have on your reading community?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so the impact is, like I said, people going to the Camino after reading it. Like, and like I said, that's huge. It isn't just one person. I've had several people actually like fly off to Spain after they read my books to go visit this fantasy world you can read today. It's also helps for people who have walked the Camino to go back and read it and kind of like relive the experience. The other thing, in my books, there's a lot of philosophy as well. So like the philosophy in there, I think really has the ability to impact people's lives. And I see it actually changing the way that people speak. And I can't talk too much about it, but I see a lot of people referring to problems in their life in a specific way afterwards, and they're able to
Mm,
identify it and have a system to actually work through it, which is pretty cool. So it's like this fiction wrapped around this cool philosophical system
mm.
that if you get into it, it's really awesome and can be very, very beneficial for people.
So that's a lot of types of impact that your book
Mhm.
has, connecting people with their why, connecting them with a life-changing experience that can then help other people too, and also empowering them in terms of being able to connect to the business side of writing books if
Yep.
it's from your author platform,
Mhm.
making other writers not so afraid of marketing, because I think there's a lot of fear about marketing tools,
There is.
about what am I going to say? How am I going to talk to my audience? Where do I reach them? There's so much fear, and
Mhm.
that's amazing. All right, thanks for sharing all that.
Oh,
So,
you're welcome.
um, finally, I wanted to ask, what book would you like to promote to our watchers today? Do you have any of them like handy in your
I've
office?
got a couple of them.
Okay.
So this is my most recent little novella. So I'm doing a series of prequel novellas to work as feeders into some marketing tip 101. Have a freebie you can give away to people. So what happens is people will come to my website, they can get this book for free, and then they're on my email list and I can have them in there and I can market to them. So it's called The Black Templar, and it's a little prequel. Then we have the Through a Field of Stars series, and I'm at my in-laws' house, so I don't have all the most recent books, but this is the first one in the series. It's called The Way Through a Field of Stars.
Mm-hmm.
And the current cover has a red cover with a shell, but we're also getting hand painted covers done, or I got hand
Mm,
painted covers done, and we're in the process of making them up. The second book is called Back Through a Field of Stars in the trilogy, and the third book is called Home Through a Field of Stars. So it's the
mm,
way back home, which is pretty
mm,
fun. And
mm.
so that's the trilogy. And like I said, that is the series that is inspiring people to actually go to Spain and walk 500 miles across Spain. So it's fun.
That's amazing. Brian, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing about your history and your perspective and your impact. Again, this is Story Impact. It's a YouTube series intended to showcase authors like Brian John Skillen, their writing journey, and what drives the creation of their books. So please look up Brian John Skillen at brianjohnskillen.com or publishinghackers.com. And thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. It's so great to see you. And by the way, if you haven't checked out Lisa's books, you totally should. They're awesome. She's one of my favorite crime novelists, so definitely check her out. So
Thank you.
super fun. You're welcome.
Thank you.